Hello again. You're here with Alex and Spencer at RIPPIN, an NRL Unfiltered podcast. In this episode, we've got some previews for you for round 3 of the 2021 NRL season. There are some legitimate crackers of games this round, including the Panthers and the Storm on Thursday night, the Roosters and the Rabbitohs battling it out, and the Broncos and the Bulldogs in the battle for the bottom. Alright, without further ado, let's just rip in. And we're back for our round 3 previews. As we mentioned in our round 2 reviews episode, and go check that one out if you haven't listened to it yet, because we spend a good 10-15 minutes on every game breaking down some of the key points that you may have missed, even if you watch the games. But here we are with some fucking cracking games this round. Like there's 2 or 3 contenders for game of the round, whether it's because we've got 2 fucking absolute top-tier teams playing off, or in the case of the Broncos and Bulldogs, like, we're really, having a litmus test here for, like, who's at the bottom of the pile. So, to kick it off, like we've said, some fucking cracking Thursday night games that really get you fucking riled up for a long weekend of footy. We've got the Panthers, currently second on the ladder, only on points differential, taking on the Storm, who are, of course, coming back after a round 2 loss to the Eels, which I think surprised everybody except if you're from the west of Sydney, particularly Parramatta. So, what wins this game for the Penrith Panthers? Just keep fucking doing what they're doing. They haven't conceded a try. They
haven't conceded a point.
They haven't conceded a point. So, if they can keep that up, they actually can't lose, number one. But I guess, They really settled, this is one of the most settled rosters in the NRL, and it's obviously proving to pay the dividends at the moment. So I think keep those connections strong. Don't be overawed by the occasion. Don't let any emotion seep in. At the end of the day, this is the team that robbed them of their perfect season. This is the team that beat them in the grand final. I mean, in reality, they beat themselves in the first 50 minutes of that game, but, this is their arch enemy now. If you want to talk about 2021 fucking contender teams, this is their arch enemy, and all I think they need to do is get the ball out to those fucking cracking edges that they've got and who's their other winger? I guess the Ferrari. Paul Momirovski is probably depriving him of a little bit of ball, but you can't really blame them.
Fucking good though.
You can't blame the man if you're getting 2 meaties, right? Sorry, Ferrari. And that
second meat pie was just pure grit,
right? Just get the ball out to the backs, and they'll do what they do. But even if they fucking don't, no dramas. You got James Fisher-Harris, you've got Viliami Kikau, you've got a Kurt Capel, you've got Isaiah Yeo. Like, who am I missing here? Like, I've just named 4 fucking absolute stars and representative players.
Spencer Leota.
I don't know where the Storm actually beat this team. I'm sorry, I don't know where.
I hear you, and not to just play devil's advocate, but this is how the Storm win. I've always thought that a great coach should use what I believe is the shotgun method. I don't know what you're thinking right now, Spencer. What is the shotgun method? It's quite simple. You've got 17 blokes that play for you. You bring 21 into training every single week, right? The 4 weakest trainers every week get taken out the back, shotgun to death. You instill fear into them. You make them want to work hard for it. Short of the shotgun, that's what Bellamy's done.
This was a serious take for a minute, and then when I heard they're taking him out the back, but
no,
you're glaring at me.
Sorry. What do you? For the last 20 years, that's what Craig Bellamy has done. Short of the shotgun, of course. The Melbourne Storm very, very rarely play poorly 2 games in a row, and honestly, they didn't play terrible against Parramatta. Parramatta just played a little bit better. Penrith are going to have a lot of fucking vinegar. They're going to have a little bit of a fire in their belly. They want to try to get one up over the Storm. But I see the Storm. The Storm are really good at taking away what you're good at and making you beat them in other ways. And to me, the way Penrith, and really all teams get off to great starts, is through the middle. And the Melbourne Storm have shown in their first 2 games that through the middle, they're going to be a real fucking hard team to beat there. So I think that continues there. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what the conditions are like because the rain did play a little bit of a factor. But the drier that track is, the more dangerous Josh Adokar becomes. And also as well, Lil Puppy, for the average game that he had on Thursday night against the Eels, still played pretty well. I think the Melbourne Storm do get up over Penrith, and I've tipped my margin to be by Unos point, so by a field goal. And I think it just simply comes down to that the Storm will just outstorm them, really, which is just a little bit more grit, a little bit more dig. I think the middles will be a big factor. I'd like to see Nelson, Solomona, maybe like similar like advice to TPJ, maybe just try offloading it a little less in that opening 15-20 minutes and just set a little bit of a platform. And I think as well that Brandon Smith would have been like told, and would be mentioned throughout the week, that in an attack he was a little bit flat at the sake of his defensive game. So I think maybe just a little bit of tweaking there, and Brandon's playing a little bit more eyes up footy. I think the Storm get the win here.
Look, yeah, I think even the forward pack for the Storm is a bit of a sleeper pack because, yeah, you know, we look at how star-studded some of the other packs are, and including the Panthers. But yeah, you know, guys like Christian Welsh, like fucking
Brom brothers.
The Brom brothers. They will be missing Felice Kafusi. We all fucking know that. So there's one, I guess, asterisk that's been thrown on that pack. But yeah, 100% they do actually measure up quite well there. And yeah, there are some fucking stars in the backs for the Storm. So no doubt this is going to be a tight game. And if there's a worse time to take on the Storm than after a loss, I don't believe it exists because they don't lose 2 in a row.
Bellamy's very, very hot after a win, let alone a fucking loss.
Right. So I think, like, if anything, like the fact that the Storm lost should strike some fear into Panthers fans because they're going to be fucking out for blood, and also to prove that the grand final was no fluke. I do have the Panthers by 6 on this one. I haven't seen any chinks in their armor as yet, and I think I saw some in the Storm last week. So tight one, but Panthers by 6.
Yeah. It's a tough one to tip. It's going to be a great game of footy to watch. And look, my tips would be I'd take the unders because I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think this is going to be very, very tight because I think the team's going to be very conscious of these rule changes and the speed of the game. And that's sort of thing as well, right? Like maybe some teams have to sort of realize, unless you're the Roosters, maybe just taking your foot off the throttle just a little bit in certain situations just to make sure you don't overcommit for a 5 or 10 minute span and then get yourself a little bit like happened to the Titans last week, right? That last 20 minutes of the game, they were very flat and they ended up getting 2 tries scored on them. So just seeing how that goes. But yeah, I think it's going to be great. I take the unders and can Toto get 300 meters running as a winger? I'd love to fucking see it. I'll tell you what, 250. Unfortunately, the first taste of Friday night footy isn't as rock solid as the Thursday night game. We've got the 11th place Dragons coming off a Ben Hunt convincing victory against the bottom of the table Manly Seagulls. Yikes. Look, the Seagulls have played 2 really tough teams. I think they're going to be better off for the experience. I think there's a lot more talent in that team than how they're performing right now. This, to me, looks like a game that, like you were talking about the Raiders, maybe winning games easily and getting a little bit complacent and then maybe overlooking certain teams. I think that's what the Dragons are going to do this week. They're going to overlook the Manly Seagulls and any team coached by Des Hasler and has got Marty Tapau in your front row. I'd be scared about fucking overlooking them because they're going to punch you in the mouth. Manly, I've got a lot of pent-up aggression after the last 2 weeks. They've looked good in spurts. I'm still not 100% convinced on the Dragons. I know in the review I said they were starting to look good. As of right now, I want to see more evidence of that. So I'm going to say it's the Manly Seagulls getting their first win of the season this year. I think they're going to win by 12. And I think Jason Saab is going to get himself a double. Dylan Walker is going to look a little bit fresh and frisky. And Cherry Evans is finally going to get himself a little bit of good footy. Because, man, the Seagulls have played 2 fucking, what we think and what look like top 4 teams in the first 2 games. Whereas the Dragons played the Sharks and then the Cowboys. And haven't looked as good as I'd like a team to be against the Cowboys. So, I've got Manly. I think Marty Tapau gets over 150 metres. Saab with 2 tries. And Cherry Evans will get man of the match.
can't fucking deny that logic, and that's where we're only just starting to now get the barometer going of, well, yeah, the Sea Eagles have been smashed by two absolute gun teams, whereas the Dragons, yes, have got a win and a close loss, but to the Sharks and the Cowboys. So I do hear what you're saying there, that we just don't know how good the Dragons are yet, and you think that these results for the Sea Eagles are actually saying they're worse than what they really are. But I do think the Sea Eagles have got some dramas. I think no Tommy T means no success for them, and that's really unfortunate, but it's the way that it is. Whereas the Dragons are maybe kind of outperforming even what I expected them to do this season, as far as you said in your reviews. Hunt looked pretty good. Norman looked pretty good. Dufty looked pretty good. Ramsey looked pretty good. I thought, I think Kerr got a meaty, so he's looking all right there in the front row. Macca's being Macca. So I'm just looking at this Dragons team, and I'm looking at actually, the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys and the Sea Eagles are actually probably firming as the two poorest teams at the moment, even worse than the Tigers.
So, and even worse than the Broncos?
Yeah, I think the Broncos are going to get a win this week. So I think they get a win. Like they push the Eels at the very least, and the Eels are no losses, right? So hard to say for sure, but I think that the Eagles and the Cowboys are the two worst teams. So I think the Dragons did a number on the Cowboys, just, I guess, but, got them. So I think they also get the Sea Eagles, but it won't be by much. I'm going to say 10 points.
I like that. Yeah. Again, I don't know. Good scheduling so far by the NRL, but and it's still only a season. I can see both these games going either way. So, and obviously, of course, as well, I guess it depends on the conditions a little bit as well, depending on how that sort of favours one particular team. Because that's the thing as well, is the Dragons and the Cowboys were playing in dry conditions over the weekend.
And then the third game, and this will be the third game, I'm presuming, where we're going to be split here. So far, I've gone Panthers to your Storm. You've gone Eagles to my Dragons. And in this game, I'm taking the Roosters over the Rabbits.
Yeah, we're going to be split.
Yeah. Again, I can't. Like I said about the Panthers, I haven't seen any chinks in their armor. Much the same can be said for the Roosters. They've scored two of their players have scored more tries than every other team. So at this point, the attack or the offense is just totally unquestionable, and then the defense hasn't been much worse. They haven't conceded many points. They are definitely no slouches in that department. So for me, what wins this game for the Roosters is they've got no reason to doubt themselves at this point. And then the only other thing, yes, there's stars on both sides of this game. Latrell v. Tedesco, Keary versus Reynolds, let's say. Walker I guess Walker gets it over Lamb, but there's stars in this game. But the stars for the Roosters are battle-hardened veterans who have won multiple premierships in the last 3 years. To the Rabbits, been thereabouts, but never quite getting the job done. And that comes down to guys like Latrell and Cody Walker, I think have been overawed by, games like this in the past. This is a new season, and so far, they've been pretty good. But I think, the class and the experience of the Roosters best get over the class and experience of the Rabbitohs best.
Intriguing take. I just want to ask you one question. How many premierships in the last 3 years have the Roosters won without Latrell?
0.
That's my tip. Just Latrell. He's going to score 4 tries. And he's going to punch on with Joseph Manu. And not get sin bin for it. I don't know how. No, I'll get serious for a second. Look, Roosters have looked really good. I'll give them that. They've versed two teams that maybe we don't think are doing too great at the start of the year. One thing that the Roosters have shown, you say there's no chinks in the Panthers' armour. I agree. There's one small chink in the Roosters one, and that is, after they score that first try, they let teams back in. So they scored the first try, and then they let Manly back in. Manly got a sniff, got the first try. Cherry Evans hoiked the fucking thing into the fifth row, lost the momentum, tried to go for a kick, got it out, gave him a 7-tackle set. Roosters scored the other end. Against the Tigers, Roosters score an early 2 tries.
Then they let a little bit of ascendancy go the way Little get to try. And then on that next set, the Tigers go 99 metres and then fucking cock it up at the last play, give the Roosters back the ball. They do that against the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs aren't going to score six points. They're going to score 18 to 24 points. This is as big a test for the Roosters as it is for the Rabbitohs, where like I think a lot of people coming in are saying that it's going to, I think the ESPN tips, also if you want to do some tipping, subscribe to RIPPIN's Tipping in Comp, 78 or 80% of people tipping the Roosters this week. That's a massive fucking swing. Like, even much so for a team that's obviously coming first, that's only let in 2 tries and scored 16. But they haven't versed a team that's even remotely close to the South Sydney Rabbitohs in terms of like pure talent. And add in the fact that it's Latrell Mitchell going up against his former club. And we always say with Latrell, like sometimes it's hard for him to get into games. But if he's into a game and he's locked in, he's a fucking handful. And he's going to be locked in from minute number 1. And obviously the Roosters are going to be getting into him. So my tip is the Rabbitohs will win. That first 20 minutes, though, is going to be fucking massive. Because Lindsay Collins and Takeyaho are fucking phenomenal for starting props. And then once you've dealt with that, then you've got to deal with JWH coming off the bench. The Rabbitohs can get into that first 20-minute stint or 30 minutes before Jaiara comes onto the field, down less than 6, they win the game from there because they can control the game from there. But look for Damien Cook, for the Rabbitohs to like work it through the middle like nice and early, get their middle tired so they stop making as many meters, and then they have to go out to the wide to try to make meters rather than like at the end of their sets. Then look for Damien Cook to find those tired forwards as it gets longer and longer into the second half to try to find a few gaps. And then once Benji comes into it as well, like we saw how effective he was without Adam Reynolds there. Now all that's left, right, is for when Cook, Benji, Walker, Aren, and Latrell are all on the field together, for them to start putting it there. And if there's ever a thing that you can say about Wayne Bennett, it's that he gets his guys in those big games playing at 100%. And this is the biggest game of the Rabbitohs season so far by a mile. They fucking hate the Roosters, and the Roosters hate them. And it's Friday night footy. Rabbitohs by 6.
Oh, it's going to be fucking close. And I had to actually really ask myself who I thought would win this game and be completely objective about it, because my preseason tip, of course, was that the Rabbitohs would be the minor premiers, right? I thought the Roosters dropped out to 5th. So this is me purely having a read of what I've seen so far in these opening 2 rounds, and the Roosters are looking super, super classy. Aren may have to have a rest this week. The concussion protocol means he might have to have a rest, so that obviously changes some things. Furthermore, who are the Roosters getting back this week? Victor Radley.
They have Crichton coming back as well from suspension, or is still gone?
Yes, I guess, yeah, he comes back as well. So Crichton comes back in, and Victor Radley comes back from a lengthy injury, but before he went, he was out of the game for this extended period, was one of the form players in the NRL, and that just creates, a selection headache, yes, but one that you fucking would love to have. I think Sitili Tupanua has to drop back to the bench, the poor bastard. Like, what has he done wrong to deserve that? He's killing it.
Who's that look at the moment?
Isaac Liu. Oh, yes, so maybe Isaac Liu drops back. My apologies. Regardless, Isaac Liu.
I reckon Tupanua will stay. I reckon they'll bring Radley on as a super sub. Because I'd rather have Radley, especially coming off injury, having Radley to match up with Jai Arrow in that first fucking stint off, I think will be huge. Unless obviously I have to wait for team lists to come out, Radley goes to 9.
Ooh, interesting.
But that's a selection headache to have, right? You've got a guy that can literally play anywhere, can play lock, can play edges if he wants, can come off the bench, can play hooker, can do any of those positions very, very well. And then you've also got, Angus Crichton coming back. And that's a fucking crazy thing, because Angus Crichton is arguably one of the top second rowers in the game. And Tupanua has been playing just as well as him on the right edge. So
he's been all but unstoppable close to the line. So crazy matchup, this one. I just had to take a choice, and I picked the Roosters, and it'll be fucking close. I reckon Roosters by 4. That brings us to the first matchup of Super Saturday for this round.
Actually, a Super Saturday because both our teams are playing back to back.
Man, fuck, we might have to do something for this one. Oh, actually, no, it's Suncorp. I'll be there. Yeah. Any which way. So, first up, 2 o'clock, Saturday, Raiders v Warriors. These are both top 8 sides at the moment. I have to go Raiders all the way. I mean, I would regardless, but actually being objective about this one, I think the Raiders are still the better team. The Warriors just didn't show much polish in that game, and that's why they lost. When they could have, defended that lead, they would have gone on to the win, and they just didn't have that in them. Whereas I think the Raiders, if it's not sticky, it's hopefully their own sense of pride tells them, be fucking better this week. Even if it's more wet weather footy, be fucking better. Because that second half was absolutely diabolical. As I spoke about in the review, Jack Whiten still dropping too much ball and then not inserting himself at the right moments. In the first half, he looked really, really good. Nearly got over for a meaty, if not getting stripped. So, need to see that from him. Need to see Josh Hodgson sorting his shit out with the halves when it's his team to run, because obviously, he was able to set up Hudson Young's try this weekend. So he's got, that was actually pretty fucking sexy, that try. I don't know if you saw it, but full on feint to the left, did a little hop, skip and a jump, going left, nope, going right. And then just isolated someone one-on-one, might have been Townsend or something. It was a beautiful little dummy half play. But then again, he also needs to know when to do that and when to just give early ball to Whiten or Williams to let them do what they do, because last year they were looking pretty fucking good. So I'm super happy with where the forwards are at. They're fucking running a mark against teams, but this is probably their best opponent to date. I had tipped the Warriors to be better than the Cronulla Sharks this season, and I still think that's the case. They've obviously got that crazy good forward pack, big boy deluxe, but I think the Raiders have got the forwards to stick it to them, and I will back them for a turnaround this week in terms of backlines will be more synergistic, and maybe even, as much as I probably don't even want to see this, but you might even be getting Croker back, which at the end of the day is a more experienced and fluent backline compared to slotting Chris in there. So I think backline improve, forwards keeps doing what they do, and the Raiders probably put some points together this week and they win by 20.
Ooh. Look, I think the Raiders will win. I'll start with that, but I love playing devil's advocate. The Raiders haven't played 2 halves of footy yet in the same game. They played shit in the first half, week 1, good in the second half, flip that around week 2. You talk about this being the Raiders' best matchup to date. Definitely is. Also the hardest fight. The hardest match for the Raiders stylistically, right? Because where the Raiders are strong, the Warriors are probably, or not as equally strong at their level, but that's where the Warriors have put all of their mojo into over the offseason is, bolstering that forward pack. And week 1 with Adam Fanua-Blake, it looked pretty fucking good. Still looked good against the Knights, but, couldn't get over the line. I think if the Warriors are to win this game, I think they have to follow a similar... they have to follow what the Tigers did in the first half and then what the Sharkies did in the second half, which is just get the Raiders into the fight. You know what I mean? Just get up in their face early when they do the outside back plays. Really put some pressure on Sebastian Krish and on Curtis Scott, and then force George Williams and Jack Whiten to beat you, because like you were saying in the review of round 2, Jack Whiten still has a few errors in his game that have popped up. I think you were saying that he still can't play to his right. Mm-hmm. So that's what you should be looking out for, right? Whenever Jack Whiten goes left, belt him. Whenever he goes right, give him a little bit of space and see if he can fuck it up, and then just get rolling with the forwards. And what they did really well in that Titans game is they didn't try to overplay their hands too much. They just kind of let the tries come to them. Just do that. Just play smart, play methodical, put the ball into the in goal, get some repeat sets. That's in a perfect world. While that's how they would win, that's not how it's going to happen. Very much the same as you. I think Sticky's going to rev them up this week. I think this is one of those statement games that they need to have. It's going to be coming off of, right now the Raiders are 3rd. At least going by my picks, if my picks come off in the Storm and the Rabbitohs and the Raiders win, they're top. So big game.
Fuck, I don't
And
mind
they'll
you
know.
getting the wins then, mate.
And they'll know that heading into that Saturday Arvo game because both the Roosters and the Panthers would have already played. So this is it, man. This is a big game for them, particularly as well because we know that the Warriors are at least some shit. They're not all shit, like all the shit yet, but they at least proved that they can beat the Titans, who then came back and showed what they're capable of week 2, but then they lost to the Knights. But at the moment, we don't know how good or bad that loss looks, right? Because the Newcastle Knights, at least for this, like the last 2 games, have looked pretty good. So this is a big one. I don't see them winning as much as you tipped them by. I'm tipping them by 12, but I think it'll be a convincing 12 points. Like I'm looking at like maybe an 18-6. Like the Warriors score 1 try late, but the Raiders control the game for most of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely a bit of wishful thinking there because, I've just outlined in our reviews segment that they're a defensive team and they're just going to fucking try to choke you out of it. And I've said they're going to win by 20. I'm just hopeful, if anything. I'm just like, put some points together.
And the Warriors have been playing pretty well defensively too. So like if they can score anything above 20, like if they win by 20, if they can score more than 20 points against the Warriors this week, I think that would be pretty good. Because you got to think with the Knights and the Raiders don't have anybody close to Bradman Best in the outside back. So that was their fucking strike weapon. But, this is one of those games where like if Jack White wants to tell people to shut the fuck up, get a double.
Get it done. And he's due for one. Like he was fucking on fire last year. I think he got 14 tries or 15 tries. So he was getting a few doubles at a pretty consistent rate there as well. You see, I actually think that the Warriors did think that was their strength from the first round where they could be patient and the points would come. And I think they tried to do that against a quality opposition in the Knights and it didn't. It didn't just happen for them. And that's when they panicked a little bit. They're like, oh, well, we got all the way down here. How do we not score points? Because you actually have to manufacture points sometimes. And they didn't. So they're coming up against an even more formidable opponent, in my opinion, this round. And if they try to show patience against the Raiders defense will just go, no. Like, you have to come up with something a la the 2 kicks that the Sharks required to score. So they'll go, no, you've got to come up with something. Chanel Harris-David is actually out, or quite likely to be out. He's got an ankle or foot injury. So he's probably not even going to be there, which means they'll probably bring in Sean Sullivan. So they've lost some continuity.
And Sharkies only had 1 line break last week against the Raiders. That's fucking... To score 2 tries with only 1 line break, that kind of shows, like you said, with the kicks, that when the Sharks were trying to go through the Raiders, they weren't coming up with much. And that fucking line break, that'd only be Kennedy, wouldn't it?
I know. But as well, I think that if the Raiders do get a little period of ascendancy, like a quick 10, 15 minutes where they're hot, they could easily put on a quick 3 or 4 tries that would allow that 20-point margin. And I need to see it from them at some stage. I hope I'm wrong about them just choking teams out all season. I'd like to see a drubbing. It lights a fire in my soul. It feels really nice when the Raiders just pump someone. So I'd like to see it this round to really set up some success for the year.
Mate, speaking of feeling good inside and your team pumping other teams, this may be wishful thinking, and it may be the 3 glasses of scotch that I've had, but the Broncos are going to fucking towel the Dogs up.
Here's the confidence that I wanted to hear all season, all through the preseason, all through the first 2 rounds. It was doom and gloom. I can't fucking back him. This is the bloke I fucking know has those maroon-coloured glasses. Tell me how they're going to fucking pump him, mate.
Mate, I'll tell you one thing real quick that I don't appreciate every fucking NRL media page bringing up, is how many fucking days and how many games it's been since we've won. I'll tell you right now, stop the fucking...
Stop. We're already dead.
Our last win was against the Dogs, and we play the Dogs this week. Coincidence? Nah. The Dogs are facing the same issues that we are right now. They're struggling for an identity. They've got a bunch of different pieces that have only just sort of come into the team, and for the first time, talent-wise, we're better than the other team's forward pack. And that's the only way that we're going to win any fucking game this year is through our forwards, because it is sure as fuck ain't going to be through the halves. I'll tell you that much. Pangai will get fined $5,000 for every offload. Kevy will get back to me. I've sent him about 5 emails. I'm sure he'll get back to one of them. But I think he agrees with me that's a very good tactic that we have to employ. Just run hard and just fucking run straight. The last game TPJ had that was a fucking proper blinder was against the Dogs last year when Luke Thompson got stuck into him a little bit and TPJ was like, oh, okay. All right, let's go. He had that ridiculous fucking flick pass try assist to Isako in the corner with like 4 guys dragging him out. I'm confident that Dearden will play this week. I'm confident that Milford will get dropped, which is just fucking bingo bango. And look, we didn't play well in the second half against the Parramatta Eels, who were a top 4 side last year. We didn't play well for 15 to 25 minutes against the Titans at the end of the first half and at the start of the second half. The Broncos last year just flat out didn't play good footy at all. So there's at least good moments here. And out of all the shit of the first 2 weeks, Jordan Ricky bounced back this week against the Titans. He had 10 missed tackles week 1. He only had 2 this week. Ran the ball really well, 36 tackles, 140 odd meters, looked good and really fucking aimed up.
I think he had more. I think he was at like 170, 180. He led the Broncos for meters.
Well, yeah, like good game. Pangai led from the front. Flegler looked really good. Bullimore, I said it after week 1. I'll say it again after week 2. Some of the fastest feet for a big man, particularly a big man coming off the bench. I'm looking forward to him just getting some more time and sort of growing, and also being able to come into a game now where, at least where I'm tipping, the Broncos are going to be ahead and in the ascendancy a little bit. So I think the first 20 minutes, they just have to play super composed. I think what they ran into this week is against the Eels. The Eels kind of gave it to them. They were going out wide. They weren't running it through the middle. I think now the Broncos know this week that there's going to be a battle up the middle for the first 15 or 20 minutes. But I think now, like, it's against a team that just doesn't have the, no pun intended, the bite or the bark that the other 2 teams have had down the middle. So I see the Broncos taking it pretty cautiously for the first half. See them up by 6 at halftime. And then I see them gaining a little bit of confidence as the second half wears on. They're going to win 30-12.
So this is your head and your heart telling you the Broncos get a win. Fuck yeah. This is the bloke I want to see. Fucking get behind the boys. They need you. In saying that,
I mean, we've got Kevy, so they don't really need me.
I think they get the win here. This is the hardest game for me to tip, even with your Storm, Panthers and the Rabbitohs and the Roosters. This is the hardest game for me to tip because they've shown some signs of life, a la the Broncos against the Eels and the Bulldogs against the Knights. But they both got some fucking big problems, and I don't know who's worse. That's probably like the thing that is in my mind right now. I don't know who's worse, and I have really bad news for you that I don't think they drop Anthony Milford this week. One more week he gets. Kevy gives him another week this week. He knows how fucking big the game was last week and how much he got schooled by Fafita. He's going to say, look, I don't think that someone in the Bulldogs is going to do that to you, but I need to see more from you in attack. And I think he doesn't do it again. And that's when we see a change. I'd like to see Dearden and Kelly, maybe. Maybe Dearden and Kelly in the halves. But I don't think it happens this week to their detriment. I think that makes this a tighter contest than what it would be otherwise. But the Broncos get the win. They're at home. There's some signs of life. Tessie New had his best game I think he's played in the NRL and got his first meaty. He's actually looking more and more like a bona fide centre now. I don't think they'd found a spot for him before this. Tried him on the wing, tried him at fullback, and now he's looking swole. He's looking like he's really moulding into a good centre kind of position.
I'd like him to stay in that centre spot and keep Herbie there, and I'd like to bring Staggs into 5/8 once he comes back from injury with Dearden at 7, because then we actually have somebody at the 6 that can run the football, and Turpin and Dearden can kick enough in play that it negates the fact of not having a kicking number 6.
And we don't know if he can't kick. Maybe he can.
And honestly, it's just the thing where like we've thrown so much shit at the wall. Just like give Staggs 5 games.
Fuck, I could not fault you for wanting to see more ball in Staggs' hands. That could be a fucking
you can't defend for Dick, but he can run with a footy.
Exactly. So that could be a really interesting one.
Milford can't defend for Dick, right? So.
But we're looking outside the box here. Unfortunately, I don't think the Broncos are doing that. They're literally like trying the same old shit. These first 2 rounds, they picked the same team pretty much, and it's not working. And it was the team that they played at the start of last year, and it wasn't working. So Stags to 6 is such a big call that I think they're fucking a little while away from making that kind of call yet. I'd just like to see Milford go back to Q Cup, and if you can't even perform there, what's that fucking say? Hasn't happened so far, but I think enough will be done within the Broncos ranks this week. Broncos win this game by 10.
I can't wait to have my heart broken again.
All right, and then we got our final match of Super Saturday, the 6:35 p.m. game again between two top 8 teams at the moment, both with 1 win, 1 loss. No, the Eels are both undefeated. My apologies. So the Eels at home to the Sharks. As far as these teams are only one position apart on the ladder, I think they're worlds apart as far as where they actually sit in the NRL right now. I think the Eels just need to continue what they've done at the second half of round 1 and for most of round 2, set the standard with their forwards. In saying that, they're going to need a little bit more than luck. You can't rely on Mike Acevo pulling a fucking rabbit out of a hat against a non-jumping George Jennings. So I think they're going to actually need to come up with some better plays, I guess. Again, wet weather footy, how much fucking, penalty or congratulations can we give to some of these teams in these conditions? But they need to do more. That, again, falls on Moses' back. Dylan Brown, again, didn't do much in attack. He just had a much better defensive game this time around. So, again, those two halves need to do more because Gutho's doing fucking everything.
Sharks are going to win.
Jeez.
They're going to win this week.
I could see that upset, actually.
Yeah, if you think about it long and hard enough, it's not really that much of an upset. The Eels, to their credit, to their detriment, are cocky motherfuckers. They're really fucking cocky. And I think that they're going to start drinking their Kool-Aid too much and they're going to start fucking telegraphing shit to Sevo and shit to Fergie, again, too early into the count. If Waka Blake, you'd think that Niokora will start again. If Waka Blake was indeed dropped, which I think he was, he shouldn't be back there. He looked really good. But that Eels pack is big. It's a big pack. They're probably not going to have Ryan Madison. They might not have him for a while because he's had some real issues with concussions and he looked proper out after that Kafusi fucking forearm elbow, whatever you want.
There was nothing in it.
Nothing in it. Just a little bit of a fucking sneaky little dog shot. The Sharks forward pack is good, and it's not just good 8 to 13. It's fucking good 14 to 17. Like, they've got a good rotation. They're fit, they're fast, and they're agile. And they've showed in both of their games so far that last 25 minutes of games is when they really fucking turn it on. And that, coincidentally, is when the Eels have really fucking... last week, they put the game to bed. They had 2 fucking good tries. And then against the Broncos, they fucking turned on the fucking gas, and they got them done in that last 25 minutes. So... I just see the Eels just overlooking the Sharkies a little bit. They got out of jail against the Broncos, and then they got up big time for a game against the Storm. I see them coming back down to earth a little bit against the Sharkies, overlooking them, but the Sharkies have the talent that the Broncos don't have to fucking put them to the sword. I reckon Sharkies by 4, 16 to 12.
Mate, there's got to be an upset in a round. That could be it. I can't deny you that. I don't think the Eels are looking so good. For the 2 wins, I don't think they're looking so good that they deserve to be at the top of the table.
They're not looking as good as the other teams that are undefeated. I'd say the Knights have looked better than the fucking... and
they're a strong fifth of the 5.
And the Sharkies are going to be fucking dirty because they're thinking we should be 2-0. Chad Townsend's probably come out and said, look, boys, I fucked up. That's on me. I fucked up that win for us. I'm going to go out there this week and we're going to fucking put it to these bastards. And the thing, like I said with the Sharkies, is that the Sharkies are a team where they match up really well against all the teams because one thing that you need to have to be successful is just a nuggety defense. And if the Sharkies can keep control of the ball, attack's always been the problem for them the last few years. If they can just keep control of that fucking ball and just complete some of their sets and get Mitchell Moses maybe a little bit rattled. And like you said, make it so that Gutho can't get into a position to pass the ball on kick returns to Sevo and Fergo. He's actually got to start charging them back so that you literally got to work. I haven't really seen a team that's done it yet, but try to tire Gutho out as much as you can. Make him fucking run, make him get on his bike, you know what I mean? And I think they'll do that.
And the reports started coming out not long after that Raiders-Sharks game, actually, that Adam Elliott had been messaging Chad Townsend's missus because, he deserved a bit of a cuckolding at the end of that one.
Stop it.
You want a real man? I can kick goals. All right.
Yeah, Sharkies by 4. I don't know. What's your tip?
Eels by 8. And then rounding out the round, a couple of Sunday fucking barnstormers. There is a Queensland derby in here, but that'll come in the later game. Before that, we got a game down at Newcastle between the Knights and the West Tigers. Does Joey Leilua play?
If he plays, I don't care what side Bradman Best was playing on. Whichever side that Joey Leilua is defending, you put Bradman Best on him, and Best will score 4 tries.
I think they do match up. I think they do. I think Leilua plays again, and Bradman Best fucking schools him. Unfortunately, I just love Leilua. Oh, I feel for him.
I don't want to get too high on Newcastle's dicks just yet because they've played well. They've played really fucking well, but I'm just never sure with them because they did this last year where they looked really good starting off the season and they just kind of fell off the map a little bit. But in terms of all the games this week, this is the easiest one for me to tip, I think. Like the Knights, like I'm not saying that the Knights can't lose this. The Tigers can't win this game. They just don't match up anywhere against the Knights like for like. Like Newcastle's forward pack is just fucking ridiculous. Like Clemmer and Saifidi for the first 5 or 6 sets of that game. Like Timeout and Offer have shown that they're pretty good, but that's the issue. Once those two start to get a little tight and they come off, that Tigers team is just fucking shit house.
They got Fitzgibbon to come back into that forward pack as well. Was there one more missing from the forward? No, but, so if their forward pack's already looking good, and that's with like a couple of fill-ins in there, let's say Mitch Barnett, and maybe he doesn't normally play. Does he? So who drops out? Connor Watson back to the bench, or does he stay 13?
Well, so that's the weird thing is that he's been playing 13, but he hasn't started both games. He's been dropped for Suaso Su to come into the starting side every week, and then Watson normally plays. Like, I think he plays the last 10 minutes of the first half and then just all the second half. But he's, mate, throwing the word X Factor around. But, like, Connor Watson in that roaming number 13 role, just like doing what he wants to do. Fuck, he's looking good. Their spine right now, apart from number 6, is looking fucking real juicy. Like, they've still got KP to come back. So once he comes back, their attacking potential just goes through the fucking roof. Mitchell Pearce has been playing well despite all the off-season controversy. Jaden Brayley is playing fantastically. And then Connor Watson, whenever he's on the field, is just a fucking little dynamo. And look, like, credit to the Knights as well. Like, they've had some games that, particularly against the Warriors, like the Knights last year or the year before might probably lose that game because they just don't have what it takes at the end of the game to really, finish it off. But they proved me wrong because I thought the Warriors would win. And look, I don't think it's going to get any easier for the Tigers. I don't think they're going to get fucking belted as much as the Roosters did, but I see the Knights-Tigers game going similar to their game against the Bulldogs in round 1. I think they just, this early in the game, like there won't be any Tigers try early. I think the Knights will just take the lead within the first 15 minutes and then they'll just fucking get through their sets. They'll coast through the game and they'll just end up putting 30 on them.
The only way I can see the Tigers winning this game is if they sort out their halves and their halves step up. So Dewey will be back there again this week. He didn't really have much of an impact last week, unfortunately. And Brooks, I think he's really being quite lenient on him, man. Like, I think he's the worst halfback in the NRL. A starting halfback, if there's 16 of them, I think he's the worst one. Depends if you count Anthony Milford as a halfback. But I think he's the poorest half because he's trying hard, but it's not working. And he's still doing the silly stuff like last week, I think he kicked 3 or 4 kicks dead. Like, just the little things like that, you're constantly gifting the other team. Not only are you gifting them a 7-tackle set starting from the 20-metre line, but you're also sapping your team of any true opportunity at a try because you're not icing your sets. You're down there on their line, and he puts in this grubber that ends up fucking in the first row. Yeah. They're really poor kicks. I sat back in my chair watching this game just going, it's something so easy to fix in your game, and you've done it 2 weeks in a row multiple times. And that's just one area where he lets me down or lets his team down. He doesn't, I think, set up the plays as well as he could. He does a good little run at times. When he attacks a line, he can make a break and then often doesn't ice it either, like doesn't hit the right player or something like that. So, these are all obviously top tier halves. So there's only 16 of them. I just think he's the 16th one. But if he can actually play well, maybe they've got a shot because they've got a couple of forwards that aren't too bad. Tamau and Offengawi have been all right.
Luciano, credit, has been trying harder, at least. But yeah, it just... Yeah, unless fucking... Yeah, Luciano has himself a game
Noffa has a game. Jimmy the Jet. Like, all these guys have, like, the best games of not even their seasons. Like, some of, like, the best games. They're not going to win this game. So, look, it's not going to be pretty, but, I mean, it's going to be pretty for Newcastle fans. Like, they're going to start the season 3-0.
Yeah, I think 30-10 for the Knights.
Yep. Fucking even then, like, 10 points for the Tigers. That's us giving the Tigers some fucking love. So don't you dare be saying with Dr. Scum that we're out to fucking get yous. Yous are out to get yourselves. And with teams out to get themselves, the final game in Sunday Arvo footy, I guess Sunday night footy if you want, has 13th place Cowboys versus the 10th place Titans. Yeehaw. The Queensland Derby nobody wants. The fucking McDonald's at home of footy games. Ugh. Look, Cowboys are fucking trash. They know it. Taumalolo knows it. Fucking coach knows it. Titans know it. They're going to get beat up pretty bad here. The Titans are just getting into their groove. I think some of those new pieces, particularly Dave Fafita, I think they figured out how to isolate the halves really well. Michael Morgan's a good defender, but he's made of glass, so I'll be testing that avenue early and often. Look, the Cowboys with Taumalolo are a tough bet here in this game. Without him, there's just... And like you've been saying for weeks, like there's just... All the key players for the Cowboys just aren't really in positions that make the most amount of sense for them. Like Val Holmes scores that try with a little grabber and chase in the middle of the field. He's a winger. Had to grab the ball from like a offload like 10 metres in from touch to run to the middle to then put it through to get himself the try. Like Drinkwater has been playing well, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Drinkwater should be playing fullback. I think Val Holmes should be like, maybe Todd Payton has a look this week and changes a few things. I doubt that he does. And, you know, for the Titans, I think this is just another game to just, you know, start ironing out those rotations in the forwards. Obviously, like not having Brian Kelly hurt them a little bit last week. There were probably a few more players that if they'd had Kelly over Philip Sammy, they'd probably go over and score a few more tries. So, you know, just getting the confidence there a little bit more. AJ Brimson hasn't been playing great. He's definitely going to play great against the Broncos, but again, he's still getting a win. Like just, you know, rounding them into there. And look, like, I just feel sorry for the Cowboys because they're just going to start 0-3. And like right now, like, you know, a guy that's commanding $1 million of your cap this season isn't there. You got a new coach, new systems trying to be put in place, and you know the positions on the ladder don't do this justice to just how different these two teams are right now. Titans are on the up and up, and there's not one player for the Cowboys that I'd have in that Titans team over a Titans player.
This is the game where the Titans start to get a bit of a roll. They're off the mark now. There's a bit of confidence now. There's a bit of belief now after all the off-season hype. Oh, yeah, we can be fucking good. We've got David Fafita, who just is unstoppable if he runs anywhere near a wing, a centre or a halfback. Like that little gap between those two. Who's going to stop him? Like, you have to have a fucking really potent second rower or lock that can cover and cover fucking fast to stand a chance. So they're going to start getting a roll on here. Whereas the Cowboys, yeah, I don't want to fucking go over the same shit that you've just said and that I've been saying for fucking months, but wrong players, wrong positions, and for a bloke in Todd Payton that apparently like was really good at not only game strategy but also winning over the locker room. This is what the word was about him when he was at the Warriors and in his previous assistant coaching roles. He's not doing a real fucking good job of it. I think strategy, roster management, both not up to par at the moment. And there's already now stories emerging, truth or not to them, hard to say, but that apparently both Taumalolo and Holmes not vibing with the coach. Don't agree with his methods, don't think he's doing a good job. And that's 2 games into a season that they're supposed to be like rebuilding, getting better. They've gone back.
I think I saw one report that like Taumalolo said that he was like that Todd Payton had a chat to him and he was like pretty happy that Payton was putting more responsibility on everybody else in the team, not just him. So
okay.
I saw that from Bloke in a Bar.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I just like either way, like 40-0.
Yeah, I think it's going to be bad. 40-0's fucking like, that'd be the Titans, I think, really sort of getting some shit together that I don't know if they're there yet But, yeah, I reckon 28-12.
Well, I mean, if Ben Hunt looked the way that he did against the Cowboys, then fucking Jamal Fogarty might have a career day. And say what you will about the Broncos defense, it's pretty fucking bad, but Dave Fafita running at that edge for the Cowboys, that's going to be dramas. Yep. I mean, running at any edge is dramas, but...
And you're not wrong about AJ Brimson. He has had a quiet start to the season, not from lack of trying. I've seen him trying to do the plays that he does best, which is a beautiful little follow-up, James Tedesco-esque, where he's just always in support play or pushing through the most narrow of gap, and he's just got the speed and agility that sometimes he can pop out the other side. And I don't know if it's the Titans or if it's AJ, but they're just being one or two steps off the pace where they hit him too late, too early, or a gap close that was very small to begin with, and so it just hasn't quite come off yet. And I think maybe his involvements have been too few and far between. I would like to see him doing that every set. I don't know if that's possible, energy, whatever, but I'd like to see him doing it more. I've only seen it probably once every, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes, only a couple times a game. But if he starts hitting his straps, which is the perfect game where there's an opportunity to do that, I think he gets a couple of meaties in this one. I'd say two tries to AJ Brimson in this one, and we start to see the best of him for 2021. Yeah. So 28-12 for me, Titans over the Cowboys.
40-0.
And that's a wrap on our Round 3 Previews episode. As always, don't forget to sling us a like on Facebook or Instagram, and bloody fucking make sure you've followed us on your favourite podcast platform. We would really appreciate it if you follow us. That way you get the notifications that we've just posted a new episode. And it tickles our ego just a little bit. So, there's some games of footy to be enjoyed this round. Can't wait for it to start. Just a couple of days left to go now. Enjoy the footy this week, guys, and we'll see you next week for our Round 3 reviews. Cheers.